Welcome to Get a Life Astrology, Car Astrology, with TMZ teaching everyone abundantly, empowering many, Zakia enlightening every day. It is the 2nd of September, around 2:20 something. I'm not sure if it's 2:22 yet. I'm sure somebody will send me an Ashe when it is. And the moon is in Scorpio. The sun is in Virgo. That's a sextile. We are still in retrograde season with Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, now Uranus, Jupiter, and Chiron. That's 6. Mercury's in its shadow. It'll be in retrograde in 6 days. 6-7 days, depending on where you're on their planet. Around September 8th or 9th. So next week. Funny story, and this is about Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde, actually opposing, because Mercury is currently in Libra, getting ready to go retrograde, like I said, in a week, and Jupiter is in Aries, the opposition sign of Libra. So this opposition is definitely significant with the planets that have to do with the higher and lower mind. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo and Gemini. Mars is in Gemini currently. Venus is just moving into Virgo, and Uranus is in Taurus. So we have a lot of earth and air energy. That fire energy from Jupiter starting its new cycle in Aries is very significant, and it's in retrograde. When it ends its retrograde in October, lots of rewards will come out of it, but retrogrades mean lessons. So, and earth signs mean slowing down and grounding yourself. So, without going all over the place and talking about every little planet and placement and sign it's in, I just want to talk about Mercury, the planet that rules Gemini, the lower mind, the immediate area, your duality. Could be two-faced, could be about twins, could be about siblings. Any way you split it, it's about duality. And Jupiter's in Aries, which is about self, your ego. Aries is leader. It's a cardinal sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac, so it's the leader. It's all about the I, the ego. So you're opposing Libra, which is, I've gotten lost. I was talking about the planet and the signs. Let me go back to Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of the higher mind, philosophy, religious and spiritual beliefs, long distance travel, because Gemini is about your immediate area. Mercury is about your immediate area that rules Jupiter. That rules Gemini, but it's in Libra. Let me stick to it, y'all. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, but it's in Libra. In retrograde, it'll go back into Virgo, which is one of its home ruled signs. Jupiter's in Aries for a minute. It'll roll back into Pisces for a quick second and then go back into Aries for the rest of 2023. Jupiter's retrograde ends, I believe, October 30th. Jupiter's been in retrograde for a minute. Like usually 3 or 4 months for Jupiter. Anyway, because Jupiter's in Aries, an aggressive, egotistical, yet leader and bravery and pioneer type sign, it's best that once Jupiter's retrograde is over in Aries, actually to be in Pisces, you are wrapping up things that you've already thought you wrapped up. But remember, retrogrades remind you of things. They help you redo things, relearn things, reassess, reinvent. So that Aries is the starting of something. Maybe there was something that you didn't end properly, or you think there's another way to end before you come back into starting it again. there's a new way to start it. Jupiter expands it. So right now in retrograde, it's kind of expanding some of the things that we have learned about ourselves with Aries, or the entire zodiac with Pisces, the entire world of spirituality. Give me 1 second, please. I'll show you it's 222. So yeah, in one of my TikToks, I believe, I said that there was a lot of energy going on as far as relationships, especially with this Mercury retrograde in Libra, because Libra has to do with relationships. So dealing with yourself as an individual first so that you can deal with others better, I think, is one of the lessons of Mercury retrograde, especially when we're learning how to deal with others, or learning who we value and maybe didn't value at first, or new things, just new energies, especially with anything in Aries. Again, expanding with Jupiter in retrograde in Aries, expanding on Mercury in retrograde in Libra, opposing how we deal with ourselves in relationships before we can deal with others. So a person I like to call my partner, my friend, previous and current level, however you want to take it, is we've switched up our relationship for the better, but it's definitely a lesson that we've learned. You don't do things that you've done in previous relationships with your current relationships, or new ones that you're trying to build on. So I accepted that. I didn't want to accept it at first, didn't want to accept that lesson. Then I realized most of my relationships ended up some shit, so I want to definitely switch it up, and this is the perfect energy for that. Another perfect energy for Jupiter opposing Mercury opposing Jupiter. You start with the individual planet, the inner planet, the planet closest to the sun, which would be Mercury, and then you tell what that individual planet is aspecting. So you start with the individual planet, which is Mercury. Mercury aspecting Jupiter in Aries is also us getting into our own minds about how we want to start things new. Again, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, is starting a new cycle in Jupiter. Maybe there's some things that we want to do different. Perfect example that I always use, as soon as Jupiter went into Aries earlier this year, I think it was March or April, is when, like, that hour, this is the moment that Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. It became a big deal for no reason, in my opinion, but maybe we're rewinding back to how we treat each other in our communities, in our families, in our friendships. Technically, they're supposed to be friends in the celebrity world, right? Technically, they're both black actors, male actors, both big in Hollywood, both been out for a minute, and that was not really the way you want to present yourself to the world on how much you love or even don't love your so-called brother or coworker or whatever. Why am I getting emotional? Because there was a bunch of things that I wanted to begin with in the first quarter of this year that have been put on hold. And I'm trying to figure out if the lesson is to not settle, but to downsize. Virgo is a good time, Virgo season, because we're under the sun in Virgo right now. Virgo is a good time to reorganize, especially with retrograde season being in Virgo season. 1 second. I don't know where this video cut off at. That was my daughter. She's with my mother. We're rebuilding our relationship, me and my daughter, and me and my mother. I was letting her know that give me time so when I can come over and cook dinner for her, making this a bi-weekly thing. So if you just notice a lot of changes in relationships that you used to value and you maybe didn't value for a while, it was going up and down on an emotional roller coaster, those things are getting a little better. If you didn't notice, and you notice the moon's patterns and it's how it changes the vibe of everything, this is a lighter Scorpio moon. There's really been no heavy, there's been little perks here and there of little arguments, a little toxic energy, but overall this has been a chill Scorpio moon, and it moves into Sagittarius in a few hours. So have fun with that this weekend. Sagittarius and Virgo energy is mutable energy, which is adapting. Back to the cardinal energy though. So Libra and Aries, balancing out the relationships you have, balancing out the relationship you have with yourself. That's Jupiter and Aries, and expanding on that, learning how to self-love, but not in an egotistical way. Me being a Martian myself, my sun is ruled by Mars, and Pluto, which is me having a sun in Scorpio. Mars also rules Aries. So Jupiter is being ruled by Mars's energy right now, taking initiative, impulsing, but still just brave. Like, take the leap of faith that you have in yourself and expand on it. Jupiter rewards after you've learned your lessons or after you've done some things differently while it's in retrograde. So I was talking about this, the Will Smith and Chris Rock, because people love celebrities. Maybe somehow they'll reconciliate. I'm almost guaranteeing it. I'm seeing a lot of relationship breakdowns with the Tiffany Haddish thing coming out with, about Aries, Aaron, whatever his name is, Aries Spears, Aries, right? Kanye going in on Kris Kardashian, whatever you want to call her, the old lady's name. She's a Scorpio too, child. I was saying this when I was reading it. His keywords was, go get the Clinton friend you have to come get me. That code word in Truth or World is, they're going to kill you for talking. Let's hope I can stay on YouTube for saying that. All right. The follow-up by Ray J telling Chris that, who is she to say that Kanye is getting on her nerves about how he feels and how he wants to raise his kids, and she's trying to take over all that, and Kim's letting her and all this. Anyway, as you can see, relationships are breaking down, especially in front of our eyes. Another thing I want to touch on is Jupiter and Aries. Aries represents wars. Aries represents aggression and anger and arguments. Could be egotistical arguments. There was a speech by Skin Mask, aka Joe Biden, that I'm not going to know about unless I look at it through social media. Didn't look at the speech, didn't hear nothing about it, just saw all the memes that they created with this man standing in real life under like a red light with a dark background. It looks so demonic that all morning people have been posting memes about it, and I'll share one here.
Better ingredients, better pizza, better bitches, better money, my clothes better, my shoes better, I work harder. Fuck Little Caesars, fuck Domino's.
But yeah, Jordan lost his everlasting mind, and y'all are following it. But the relationship you have with your government is even part of this. Libra is justice. Libra is diplomacy. Maybe this Mercury in Libra in retrograde is helping us realize that we don't have the relationship we thought we had with the justice system, with the people we trust, the relationships we have with the government. It's everything. It's not just loving relationships or friendships. It's business relationships, partner relationships. I'm working till 11 o'clock at night. It's almost 3. I said I would clock in at 3. More than likely, I'm clocking at 5 because I need boundaries. They don't want me to work over 40 hours at my full-time job, and yet I'm doing like almost 50 every week. I need to cut it off. I need to make myself less accessible. Please check out my calendar. I'm scheduled to come on at 5 o'clock if you want to stay on Friday at 5 o'clock, because I got to work till 11 o'clock on Friday while you're chilling for the rest of the weekend. Stay on and hit me then. Create some boundaries for yourself, Aries. That will help you deal with others, Libra, in relationships you have with them. Mercury will oppose Libra Mercury and Libra will oppose Jupiter and Aries, both in retrograde. Mercury's retrograde starts shortly and ends before Jupiter's retrograde does. But all in all, and then I don't know if this is going to cross paths, but when Mercury goes back into Virgo, it won't. I'm thinking out loud. When Mercury goes back into Virgo, I was going to say that it would be opposing Jupiter in Pisces, but because Jupiter's retrograde is a little bit longer and it's not going back into Pisces, but like 1 or 2 degrees, it'll be way past when Mercury goes back into Libra. But anyway, That was a whole bunch of jibber jabber that didn't need to be said. But anyway, Mercury will oppose Libra. It just did back at the end of August, a couple of days ago, when with Mercury being in Libra, in the early stages, and Jupiter being in Aries in the first decan is what I'm saying. So like the early degrees. I think it's like 8 degrees. And then Mercury will go back into Virgo and then come back in Mercury will go into retrograde and then oppose it while it's in retrograde, like next week in the early stages of Libra still, because it's already past that degree, because Mercury's been in Libra for a week now. Stay with me. So Jupiter moves definitely slower than Mercury. So Mercury is already past that degree that it opposed in. So they were both at like, I think 8 degrees, and now Mercury's like in 10. When it retrogrades in Libra, it'll go back and meet Jupiter again, I think about 6 degrees before it goes into Virgo, and Jupiter still be in Aries in retrograde. Because Mercury moves faster, it's passed faster. Passed it twice, going direct, going retrograde, and then when it goes direct again, it'll pass Jupiter again, still in retrograde. So 3 times we're going to hit these exact oppositions. Last week, I know it was when me and my partner decided to not call this a relationship, but build a friendship. That was when it hit for me individually. Next week, we'll find out what the other thing is going to be. And then about at the end of September, we'll find out about what that last opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. I think that's all I want to say about that. I'm going to come back with a few more aspects, big ones, especially dealing with Mars, Venus 2 in Virgo, just a few other things I want to talk about before we actually get busy next week with this Mercury retrograde. Wish me luck. What my partner likes to say is that none of that stuff affects us, even though astrology is everything and energies are everything, unless we want it to affect us, unless we ask it to affect us, unless we talk it into existence. So giving you the heads up, giving myself the heads up, moving forward always. You are this energy, and this energy is you. Again, I'm TMZ, teaching everyone abundantly, empowering many, Zakia, which means intelligent in Arabic, y'all. Enlightening every day. This is Get a Life Astrology, growing into divine adults and loving yourself forever.